Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to today's episode of economic satire wrapped in reality on Boss Economics World. I am your host, and today we're going to examine the latest buzz in British economic circles, consumer spending habits, and how beneath all the comforting distractions, there's an undercurrent of trouble flowing towards the UK's economic future. The report from Barclays provides an intriguing yet cautionary glimpse into what is truly happening beneath the surface of consumer behavior. We're told that UK consumers in 2024 cut back on essentials like food, with spending on supermarket items, fuel, and basic consumer goods increasing by only a meager 0.9%. Meanwhile, large-scale spending on cinema entertainment like the Taylor Swift Eras Tour and small indulgences under the so-called lipstick effect have taken the forefront. Let's take a closer look at what all these humans from the aisles of tea are prioritizing: concerts, lipstick, streaming services, while the essentials are aggressively sidelined. Now, let's break down this lipstick effect business, which looks like a shiny dime at first, but it's more like fool's gold. For those of you not surrounded by fancy-pant economists, what we're talking about here is that in tough economic times, consumers cut back on larger, more expensive purchases, but treat themselves with small, relatively affordable pleasures, those mini dopamine boosts. The lipstick effect tells us, our wallets might be drained, but we will look good while hanging over the edge. Barclays mentions that consumers are retreating to low-cost luxuries, items that offer momentary emotional satisfaction but represent an escape from harsher financial realities. But this isn't merely the population indulging in frivolity. It is a reflection of fear, a manifestation of a population with no confidence in the government's ability to steward the economy. It's an emotional cushion before a more profound, sinister reality: people don't believe things will get better anytime soon. According to 2024 Barclays data, spending on non-essentials, from concerts to travel, seemed to hold steady, even increase. Meanwhile, essential spending, those things people actually need to, survive, barely budged. This critical divergence in spending trends might seem at first like the public has embraced its new priorities, investing more in transient comforts. But let's not paint this with pastel colors. This is reckless consumer behavior often triggered by undercurrents of economic pessimism. Though travel spending makes headlines with its gains, especially as consumers splurge without care on their vacations after years of restrictions, it's important to ask, where is the caution? After all, while travel bookings surge, do you know what isn't? Spending on essentials like food and fuel only rose 0.9%. That's lethargic under any metric, especially when you factor in population growth and inflation. This conscious consumerism, Barclays is so eager to point out, is far from healthy economic equilibrium. It's survival. When the majority of the population is dramatically reshaping spending to include household essentials as if they were optional goods, we should recognize that such behaviors highlight not affluence and enjoyment, but worry and distrust in future economic opportunities. There's another alarming trend the report slips in: many households are now saving much more than before. Naturally, saving's a good thing, right? Not so fast. If it's happening in the context of a looming economic slowdown, it could instead be a sign that consumers expect things to get worse, not better. For the first time since the Great Recession over a decade ago, UK citizens aren't spending their extra income, they're holding on to it, just in case. In 2024, the UK savings rate soared above its historical average. Whenever savings surge to this degree, it's often a signal of heightening anxieties or future uncertainties. It reflects what people think about their job security, wage growth, the future cost of living, pensions, everything. What does this tell us about confidence in UK leadership? People don't expect the Labour government strategies, post-Brexit trade realignments, and ever-so-convenient promises of growth to actually materialize into a better economy. From point to point, they're screaming, "We can't rely on you." And this saving behavior fits right into a fear of future inflation, warnings of weak employment growth, and potential job cuts, all stalling across the backdrop of policy uncertainty. Barclays highlights that household incomes have risen. On the surface? Thank you, economic gods, except per the fine print, these income increases come as inflation eats them up right at the dinner table. Our ordinary consumers may have seen higher wages officially registered, yes. But inflation remains stubborn, particularly in services like utilities and rent, where monthly bills can balloon beyond any additional income increase. In other words, it's a paper gain. Though wages technically grew in real terms for the first time in what feels like decades, rising borrowing costs coupled with high basic living expenses offset the average consumer's feeling of security entirely. The key point: wage growth alone won't save the economy. Households still won't be able to fully indulge in an economy where inflation constantly outpaces expected earning potential. And trust me, the long-term dangers of stagnation, they're coming through that 2025 door, smiling. Primetime drama filling the halls of Westminster now revolves around Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. The Labour budget late last October avoided major tax increases, a sigh of collective relief. But did this momentary easing open the floodgates of optimism and growth? Nope, not in the least. Instead, what followed was a new set of equally painful fears: the threat of mass layoffs, inflation forecasts for 2025 creeping up, declining business productivity, and a government acting surprised by it all. And therein lies the key economic muddle for the UK government. Avoiding increased taxes may have prevented short-term outrage, but they did not and could not spark the regeneration of economic dynamism necessary to offset larger recessionary pressures looming on the horizon. But can such deep-rooted issues be remedied by Labour's fiscal policies alone? Certainly not. The accumulated pressure from the disastrous disengagement with the EU post-Brexit hasn't just shuffled city infrastructure away from major trade hubs, it has dragged every other sector of the economy down with it in a long shadow of awkward economic behaviour. Britain's economic landscape in 2024 is like a game of Jenga, a rickety stack where consumers keep pulling out piece after piece, still banking on some grand rescue, only to bring it all crashing down. Rather than reinvesting in foundational sectors like infrastructure or educational growth, people are diving headfirst into another movie, another concert, another streaming binge. Yet crucial ingredients for sustained consumer spending, like the confidence that real wage gains aren't a mirage, are crumbling away. Moreover, both UK productivity and output from key industrial sectors have been stagnating. For too long, small, consolatory measures like entertainment and escape spending are masking signs of deeper erosion. Policy choices aimed at offering immediate consumer relief, like dodging tax increases or light social stimulus in 2023, masked underlying recessional shapes forming right beneath the eye of the storm. Let's not forget energy shortages, absurdity in housing policies, stretched income inequality, all of it's quietly boiling. Of course, let's not ignore the pandemic's role in implementing radical consumer shifts. After months of lockdown fatigue and economic confusion during 2020 to 2022, new spending habits emerged. People turned inward, built savings, began to be resourceful at home, and spent only on things that brought emotional warmth. But in the shadow of 2024, the economy demonstrates a jarring aftershock of pandemic-induced excess that's harder to revitalize. In fact, remote working trends and the reshaping of cities around more insular ridges have permanently altered how consumers interact with markets. So where does the future of the UK consumer economy lie? 2024 made one thing clear: whatever fanciful growth plans the Labour government sells, consumers aren't buying. Instead, they're retreating into fear and frustration, focusing on escapist activities while fundamental essentials are ignored or, worse, impossible to maintain. They're squeezing themselves comfortably into escapism, but that underscores, not shields, economic fragility to come. Mark my words, the next several months will reveal whether we're merely watching the twilight hours of an enduring financial downturn or whether UK leadership can guide policy long enough to rebuild consumer confidence where it matters most, in essentials, security, and growth. I've said enough for today. Stay vigilant and as always, watch closely what they won't tell you. Catch you next time, on Boss Economics World. Every time they pretend it's going well, we pour out the hard truths.